Or there's the like, I don't know if I can have orgasms. This is a very real question.
And prominent issue.
Yeah. And women start to think they're broken. Exactly. Exactly.
You ain't broken, baby.
For sure, I assure you, having done this work for like 20 years, I have yet to find anybody who is a broken. We were just talking about when the spark happened. And she said, oh, it happened like some point down the road, because she was trying to be like, just see where I was on that.
Gotcha.
And I was like, I just instantly was like, that's BS.
Can you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah. So here's how the spark happened,
Okay.
dude. Come walking into the place, literally, I have an event going on, there's an event going on for my crypto thing.
Okay.
And I come walk, I'm just kind of coming in and like just kind of getting a sense of the place.
Yeah.
And come in and boom, eye contact. And this huge smile off this woman. And I was like, get the F out of here, bro. It was just instant. I was
Really?
like, it was,
Is that like a usual tell, like the eye contact?
Well, there's a number of tells.
So
right?
what was it that you felt in that moment?
It's the eye contact plus energy. It's as if I can feel her vagina. For real.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of event was it? Oh, the crypto thing you said.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like
No. So this is a thing, right?
So you could feel the sexual energies off of like kind of coming through her eyes, basically, was what you're saying.
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah. You could feel her vagina.
I could.
Damn,
dude.
man, that's a superpower you got.
Superpower.
Wow.
Yeah, and yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I kind of understand what you're talking about, because like when we're on stage performing and whatnot, you kind of get a sense of that same type of energy. You know what I mean? And it's pretty obvious in that context and that setup, because we're on stage to perform and to basically entertain in that way. But like for what you're talking about, like at a random event, that's pretty crazy. Like that's very interesting that you picked that up so quickly. And like, because here's one thing about me too. Sometimes I'm like completely oblivious.
So a lot of men are, and I think this is a really important part of our conversation.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think there's a couple things going on.
Yeah.
That example is a perfect breakdown.
Yeah.
Of like what an interaction is, because what I notice, like when I have a very tiny group of private clients, right? Like I'll see 2 or 3 a year, maybe on the outside 4, like that's a lot. And I charge a lot for it because I want to come in, I want somebody's full commitment.
Yeah.
Right? And then we'll come in and I'm going to teach them these secrets. But
yeah.
A lot of men, because we're not trained, like you're trained, you just don't know that you're trained, right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I'm like accidentally trained, like just by, the lifestyle I've lived and, the work I do. And
that's right.
I've picked up on these things, these little nuance things, with just because out of necessity. Right, it's like that was like my job. I need to understand.
That's right.
Right, and when I say like I'm somewhat oblivious, is because I think part of the reason for that, with me in particular, is because it's like it's not a focus of mine when I'm out and about.
Right.
I'm not thinking about that. My intention isn't like to find that.
No, of course.
So
of course. Yeah.
I'm
That's
not like
part of
really
the
looking
thing.
for it.
So here's the cool thing, though, right? So there's always this level of communication that's happening, right? And you're moving, and because of course we're just doing life,
right?
So you're not looking or thinking, but once you start to clue in, it's fascinating, because like it's like our energy creates this wave.
Yeah. Of communication you're talking about without saying anything.
Non-verbal.
Right.
And then there are sometimes like this woman where the wave comes through, she's open to it, it hits her, boom, and then she comes back and she's like, that.
So that's what happened with you and this woman.
That's right.
And you picked it up right away.
Yeah,
of course.
because it's like an ESP thing. Like, it's like, and what's interesting is women listening to this will also know.
They'll understand what we're talking about. Guys listening to this are probably
like, what do you have?
What you guys are talking?
Yeah, we're talking like space talk.
Come on, dude, get real. Right, I get what you're saying, but it's real. It's a real thing. It's just like if you're conscious of it and if you felt it and experienced it before and enough times, then you realize what we're talking about. And I feel like women are a lot more in tune. Why do you think that is? Women are so much more like in tune with that than men are.
I mean, look, women are dealing with sex one way or another. They're dealing with sex energy from day one. Okay? Boys, they don't have to deal with that, but girls, because if you have a girl, let's just go with the basic stuff.
Yes, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, you have a girl and everybody's like, they're not saying this, but in so many words they're saying, by the way, your vagina, we're keeping an eye on your vagina, right? From day one, everybody's concerned with like, because I think a lot about like women who have boyfriends who are insecure and they're like, hey, where are you? What they're really saying is, hey, where's your vagina?
Yeah.
Right? And so dads do this, parents do this. They're like, hey, yeah, but we can't talk about that directly.
Right. I hear what you're saying. That's so true.
Right. So there's all this conversation about basically an opening that nobody's actually talking about. Right. So they have to start to make some distinctions that, we don't have to worry about.
Right.
Guys just don't, you don't have to, the difference between I have a button, that's buttoned here or buttoned here.
Yeah.
Or buttoned here.
Right.
For a woman, this is the difference between her being perceived as intelligent or a slut. And it's 2 buttons.
Right.
So
in other words, women are much more sexualized than men are, and that's why they're so much more in touch with that type of energy or just on their toes. Toes. All the time.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And so they're developing a symphony of understanding language. On the way over here,
right.
I have a friend I was just chatting with her on the way over, and she's a model. She was what I would call she is one of these women who, when you think about what is possible on planet Earth, she's one of those women who lives in a world where literally anything is possible because of how beautiful she is. Right? So she's a fascinating person to be friends with because she's living in a different, there is nothing that is not accessible to her. Where do you want to be? You want to be in an island in Greece? No problem. We could be there tomorrow. It's that.
Yeah.
And so, somebody like that is living in this like extraordinary universe, and I see her phone, her texts, her DMs, and dude, there's thousands of messages and everybody's just angling and trying. So she's navigating this every day.
Yeah.
Right. And now she's in a certain echelon.
Yeah.
Right. But then there are girls just hanging out and they're just kind of, and they're getting the same thing.
Right.
What's up?
Yeah, everybody gets in on some sort of level. So managing that and honestly honing it in a way where they can, experience life in the happiest, most fulfilling way is something that you kind of have would you call an expertise in?
Yes.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's really important for a lot of people, and that's what I really want to talk to you about. That's why we got Lawrence on the podcast. I felt like it was such a great fit.
Yeah.
I was like,
oh yeah.
You know, because these are all conversations that, you know, people just don't have, right? They're taboo to talk about, or, you know, it's a little bit, there's judgment around that type of conversation. And listen, one thing about our podcast, we called it Stripped Down Podcast for a reason. It's like, we're stripping down, we're talking about it, we don't give a shit, we're keeping it real. Like, that's, vouch for us here, ladies. We keep it real. We keep it 100% just real, right?
Love that.
Yeah, so it's like not sugarcoating, just being straight up. This is what's all on our mind. So let's just talk about it and get it out the way so we could actually progress in life and, you know, live happier lives. You know what I mean? So I'm really excited about getting into that. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. And if you haven't figured out by now, we have a very interesting episode for y'all tonight. And we have Mr. Lawrence Lanoff with us. Is it Lanoff?
Yeah, you got it.
Lanoff with us
perfect.
today. How would you describe yourself? Like, what would your, I mean, you have so much knowledge and so much experience in so many different ways. I just don't know how to, like, I want to just call you sex God. We talking about teaching everybody to become sex gods and goddesses.
For real.
Could you help with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's accurate.
Yeah.
So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. If you are new here, my name is Myles. I'm your host. Today we have Lawrence Lanoff with us, some very special guests, and we're going to get into some very interesting conversation. That's right.
Very
So
exciting.
if you are new here, welcome to the podcast. Do me a favor, though. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because we do these podcasts on a weekly basis, and our aim is to put you on game, help increase your happiness in life. You know what I mean? So if you are new on YouTube, listening for the first time, hit that subscribe. If you listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Share this with your friends. Join the conversation in the comment section, because all that feedback, all your perspective is very valuable to us. We're very open to all different types of conversation, and that's all stuff that we can use to follow up on later in episodes. So part of the reason I wanted to bring you on is because we get so many DMs talking about intimacy issues between women and their significant others, their partners, their boyfriends, their fuck buddies, whatever. You know, that women, can we agree? There's some issues out there. You know, I asked one time, hey, what are some things that you all are sexually frustrated about?
Oh man, the whole thing blew up. Yeah.
I was like, damn, okay, this is a prominent issue. So we get a lot of feedback through our DMs on our Instagram. And that's a place where people can be open with us just tell us like it is, and we keep everybody anonymous. So that's where we get a lot of, you know, insight into like what's going on, what's the real issue that y'all want us to talk about and address. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not following us on Instagram yet, go ahead and do that. It's at Strip Down Podcast. And Lawrence
the Energy Master.
Lawrence the Energy Master. You're gonna want to follow him as well. I was peeping your Instagram, by the way. I got a chance to go through that. I saw one particular video we're going to get into.
Yeah.
You do have a superpower. I watched one in particular video.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, yo, what is going on? I need to learn this. I need this. I need to know what is happening here. It was so crazy, but I'm like, okay. We're going to get into all that.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what we like to do before we start each of these podcasts is give a shout out to some of y'all. Give a shout out to the fans who be showing us love. So we want to show love right back. So from YouTube, we got Jennifer Sanchez and Arthur Callaghan.
And from Instagram, we're shouting out to With Love Erica and Another Collins Girl.
That's right. And then last but not least, from our TikTok, we got Erica Alexander 41 and Miss Jen 1016. So shout out to you ladies. Thank y'all so much for the support, for the love, for all the engagement. These are the women that be showing up in our notification section more and more often. You know,
Love
they're participating in the conversation. So shout out to all of you.
And I appreciate all of these women that are willing to communicate, man. It's so important.
Yeah, that's one thing I so appreciate about our audience. They are so open with us, especially like the DMs that we get. It's just like they share like very personal things. And it's like, this is how we get to the root of the issues with this communication. And we appreciate it, ladies. So thank y'all for that. So we're going to get into it. So let's pick up with kind of where we left off. You walk into this event, you lock eyes with this woman, you feel the energy almost immediately. What happens next?
Immediately.
So like,
now here's the thing. This is really important.
Yeah.
And you know, the ladies listening to this that know will know, right? Walk in the room, eyes turn, boom. It's like that.
Right.
And we have eye contact, and then it's like the whole world just goes
Like a movie.
Matrix. Yeah. And then it's just she and I. And there were probably 50 people in the room, and it was just she and I.
Wow.
And we're just like, boom. And then I just walk straight up to her.
What was your opening line?
I have no idea.
You just let it flow.
You know why? Yeah, because the thing is, it's not about lines.
Right.
Right? Because a lot of, like, you know.
Write that down, fellas. It's not about lines.
That, like, I do honestly feel like that was one of the big disservices to a community of men, is them thinking like, oh, it's a line and I get the line right. And it's like.
So what is it about that?
It is that sex is about energy.
Energy. And in what way? A compatibility of energy, an exchange of energy that is cohesive and that just matches up and like is comfortable with each other.
Well,
would you say that?
So here's what I would say about that, right? I live in a, you know, I'm the energy master.
I'm learning
man.
from him right now.
Yeah, I'm going to share with you, I'm going to hit you from energy master place, right?
Okay.
So this is really important because the reason we're here is because we share ideas, right?
Yeah.
Like, I promise you I will learn something from you today. Right. It's because I'm always learning. So what I'm sharing with you is coming from that place. And so one of the things when I think about energy, I see this woman, well, is it a fiery energy? Is it a watery energy? Is it a warm energy, cool energy, spiky energy, powerful energy, electrical energy? You know, I mean, there's so many flavors. And then depending on what I'm feeling, I can start to add something to it, which now gets also interesting. So for her and I, time stopped, but I was like, oh, and I immediately could feel a hungry energy. I was like, oh, this is a woman who has not been felt and seen. That came to me like that. I was like, oh, right? Because it was like, her response was like, oh shit, you see me. And I was like, yeah, I do. So I walked up from that place. Yeah, I see you and I feel you, which is like the saddest thing in the world, because here's this radiant creature and like she's not being seen. It's like a flower that's just kind of like, that all happened like that, man.
Wow. Just a reference to the audience real quick. When we're talking about this, we don't want you to think that we're coming from a crude place. We're just coming from a straight up place.
And, you know, part of the thing is, I want to be, you know, just to really clarify that, because sometimes what I am saying when I'm saying that is I am speaking in reality.
Yeah. That's what we do here.
Yes.
You see?
And that's where I'm coming from, right? It's like, you know, there's another story for another time, but the language is about like acknowledging her as a sexual human.
Yeah.
Right. And whatever names we have, I'm literally seeing her as an alive, vibrant, sexual human. There's something about like I see you, and I see you as a human who has a brain and a heart and feelings and smarts and sensations and all of this stuff going on, and you're a sexual creature.
Right.
And that's that's what's encompassed when I use any of the words I'm using.
Well, the reason I had to bring that up is because the subject is so taboo.
Yeah.
So for the audience that's listening to it, that might be like, oh, whoa, like, we're just keeping it real. Let's be
This is real talk about
the
and reality of sex.
We're not. I just want to kind of get that out the way.
That's good.
So y'all are prepped for what kind of conversation we're having, and y'all already know we keep it real. So we're also going to keep it real in this realm as well. Yeah. So you felt that energy off of her.
Yeah, I felt that.
And the hungry energy.
Hungry, man. But and it wasn't hungry.
It was like longing for like almost a sense of desire. I hear what you're saying when you say, like, I feel seen, I feel felt, and I feel that, honestly, that's one of the things that motivated me the most when I first sensed that when we were producing the show and doing our tours and whatnot. The response and the love that we got from some of the women that were in our audience, just for something as simple as like hugging them and just noticing them. I literally got sent a huge gift box on my birthday from a woman. And I'll admit, like, I didn't really remember how we met, but with the gift box, she wrote a handwritten letter that was a full page long. And within that letter, she pointed out a moment where I saw her, I stopped, and I took a selfie with her. And that was the moment she felt. It's
very sweet.
You know, and so when you say that,
it's real.
Yeah, it is real.
It's real. And I think that's, on that note, I think that's part of what I'm speaking about there, right? It's like, it's not necessarily that there's something to do when you see that, other than maybe it's a hug or a communication, an acknowledgement, a photo, man. I mean, the smallest things can change somebody's life.
Yeah, and it just makes you stop and think about, okay, if you've had this reaction, this type of reaction where you want to go out of your way, that makes me think this is an issue. First, now I'm aware of it. Now I'm thinking about how prominent is this issue, right? And I'm thinking about, okay, walking through everyday life, how many women do you cross paths with that are feeling completely unnoticed, completely like invisible to society in that way? And that is a problem. That has an effect in a way.
It does.
Right?
You're right on.
So I just wanted to share that because I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And I know you do, which is why I'm sharing at that, right? Normally I'm not just busting it, but I know you do. That's part of why I was really excited for us to be able to hang out because I know you get that, and it's like we all want to be seen as complete people.
Right.
And we live in a culture, unfortunately, that will focus on one aspect of you and reward one aspect or no aspects. But it does not dive into human sexuality, but it is in human sexuality that we really find well-being and resilience and, strength and...
Yeah. It's a part of us as humans.
Yeah.
And there's a need there. There's a sense of desire there. And if it's not fulfilled, then it's a part of the puzzle that's unaddressed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you walk up to the woman, you feel her energy, you feel that. And what type of energy did you add in, as you were saying?
I just added into her that I see her, which was like it was more like, because I'm also very respectful. Like, I don't know her situation.
Right.
So I don't want to be rolling in with something. So the water was more, the water, I said it right there. The energy was more water, like just like, I see you and I want to water this plant. And that was the energetic feeling, and I watched her just go like.
So you just walked. Did you say anything to
Walked
her?
right up, and I
How did the
I don't
conversation-
remember exactly what it was, but
Right.
but it was some version of just like I saw something and I was just like, I think I just said hey.
But that hey wasn't just a hey.
No.
This is something I want to point out because it came with like the energy you're talking
That's
about.
it.
And it was, and women, I know y'all are following along with me on this. Men may be a little bit like, what does that mean? But but that is like, honestly, bros, if you're listening, try to like wrap your head around this. And I feel like if you listen intently enough, it's going to make sense. And and when you are conscious of this out in the real world, it'll start to all make sense, because that is better than a pickup line right there.
Yeah.
That hey, with that energy, acknowledging the type of energy you're dealing with, and then approaching with an energy that's going to complement it in a way.
Exactly. Right. And not like I didn't need anything and I wasn't trying to lead the interaction anywhere. It was just simply like, and I went, oh, this woman, whatever is going on in her life, she is not being seen, she is not being felt, and I wanted to let her know instantly, because I also didn't know if I'd see her again.
Right.
So it was just like, whoop, and then that was that water energy. Like, I see you, I feel you, you are.
And then what happens next?
Then we went on our ways.
So you didn't linger, you didn't try to pursue her anyway, you just acknowledged her, gave her, sprinkled on some energy, and then just went about your way.
Just went about my way. Yeah. Because there's no place, to be honest, there is no place to go with
You didn't come with any sort of intention other than to complement her energy, and then...
Yeah, because it was beautiful. I mean, imagine somebody reveals their essence in an instant. Like,
Right.
You really want to treat that with respect.
Yeah.
And so I see you, and I acknowledge her. Like, I see you as a live, vibrant, sexual human with all of it. So I see, like all this stuff going on, but I acknowledge you as a sexual human, as a complete human, and the distinction I'm making is that culturally, a lot of men believe that women don't want sex or need to be, somehow tricked into it, or they don't
coerced
in some way,
right.
and it's like that is so not the case. The thing women don't want is shitty sex.
Right.
They don't want another empty connection and something that looked like it was going to be a wedding cake and turned out to be
a fucking shit expired cupcake.
Exactly.
How many shit cupcakes have y'all dealt with, ladies? Damn.
Yeah.
Stale as fuck. This thing's expired.
Yeah.
What the hell? I feel what you're saying. And also, I think I want to add on to that is not only shitty sex, but also pressured sex.
It's the worst.
What I mean? It's like when you come with a selfish intent, you get shitty results.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I felt like
for everybody.
Yeah. That's why you were able to walk away so easily. Like, here's my energy and here's this acknowledgement. And it's like, I'll see you around. It's like, I'm not going to chase you because my intention isn't to force anything. And ladies, vouch for me here. Is that more attractive than him lingering around? Was that the right move that he made, just leaving it as is? I think we both know the answer, but can y'all see that as being true? Leave some comments for any guys that are listening, so that way they can, get woke to this. You understand? So they can stop being shitty cupcakes and shit.
Oh, please, man. I mean, I really feel like that's it's so important to have a different conversation, man.
Yeah. Well, I've said this on a previous episode, is letting her lead the dance.
Yes.
Let her lead the dance.
Yeah.
If she takes a step forward, I'll take a step forward. If she takes a step back, I'm taking a step back. If she goes this way, I'm going to go this way. I'm going to let her lead the dance. You know what I mean? She's going to be in control. Metaphor. And then, you know, as that happens, comfortability builds up. And then eventually it gets to a point where she's like, I'm ready for you to take control, which is the big dip. Okay, I'm ready for you. And you can feel when that moment is right. You don't just do it, right? You feel when it's right. She almost implies that now is the right moment. And then you're like, okay, here we go. Boom. And that's when you could start to take the reins a little bit more. But also always being open to letting her take back control. It's like my hands are like touching the wheel. Yeah, and then when you grab on, I let go. Yeah. When you start to let go, I start to grab on. I'm letting you lead the dance. Yeah. You know. That's my way of thinking about it. You know what I mean?
It's beautiful, but that's really, I think that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Because I think that, you know, I think one of the challenges, I mean, it's just one of the things, because I'm traveling all the time and because my time is very limited.
Yeah.
So when I do have a connection, whatever it is, right? I mean, like, you know, intellectually, emotionally, physically, creatively, you know, business wise, like whatever, like you have to treat those with respect because they'll flow. And so when something like that, you know, any kind of circumstance like that happens, you meet somebody and suddenly there's like this thing. But unfortunately, because the way culture and programming and training and trauma, unfortunately, is, it's really important to let her lead the dance.
Yeah.
Because inadvertently, when people are clamoring and trying to grab, trauma is occurring.
Yeah.
And so it may, you know, something may have nothing to do with me, but if, like, you know, my friend who I was on the phone with on the way over, if she has 50 guys that are like, hey, what are you doing? Where are you? You know, all this just coming at you. She just goes further and further away. She doesn't even want to come out of her house.
Yeah.
Right. And I get that. I really get that.
Right.
I really do. And you know, it's interesting because on one hand, like from from the world I'm living in, I'm like, I have beautiful things. I want to share them. We might only have, you know, a limited period of time. It might be a conversation. It might be, sometimes I'll literally just run a little energy through a woman's hand just so she can feel and just kind of go like, whoa, because at least she starts to understand there is more than just friction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And I want to get deeper into that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, well, eventually I want to continue on the story, but like the energy that you're talking about giving her, because I watched you demonstrate this and I was like, whoa, what is going on here? And it's some next level stuff, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm referencing here. It was very fascinating to me. And I was like, I'm very curious about asking you about that. Sure. But I do want to like continue on like this relationship that you're starting to foster with this woman, because you just had coffee with her.
Yeah, we went out for coffee.
Okay, so I'm assuming at some point in the night you guys reconnected?
Yeah, we reconnected, and she led the dance.
Okay, so in what way? Describe that for the audience.
She asked me, it was very sweet. It was like a way of her acknowledging back to me, and she said, oh, would you hold this thing for me? And I was like, of course. Right.
So you guys are just doing your thing in the party, and then at some point she initiated that connection again by asking you, hey, can you do me a favor and hold this?
That's right.
Ladies, that's your pickup line. Just giving him that green light to, hey, it's very subtle. There's not any sort of desperate energy coming with it. It's just something as simple as, hey, do you mind holding this for me for a second?
Yeah. Here's why that's important, right? Because we were talking earlier about, you know, why women are more tuned into this. So imagine, I don't know who's who's in the space with us, right? But coming over and say, hey, could you hold this, right? In that, I'm letting her know, and I'm sure, it's both implied but also explicitly that whatever's going on, I literally never kiss and tell, period, about anything. Even, it doesn't matter about what. I'm just saying, if somebody tells me a secret, it's right. So, and because women have to navigate the whore slut thing, which is like, that's a whole other. I mean, that's another pod for.
Right.
I'm just saying, it's ridiculous, right? So, but if she just hands me a little something, could happen literally in front of everybody, and it would be nobody would perceive it as anything. Right. And that's, in a way, that's also her test to me, right? Because she's like, do you know what's happening here? Yeah. And I was like, yeah, of course. Right. And so I'm like, I didn't make a move. I wasn't like, oh, wow, thank you. Right. Because the way female sexuality has to work in our culture, it has to fly under the radar. Right? So that's part of why it's really important for men to start to tune into that. Yeah. Because that thing, unfortunately we focus on like accomplishment and goals and I did this thing, but when it comes to like intimacy and connection, it's very important that happens in a private space. Yeah. In a comfortable space, in a non-judgmental space, because that's super non-judgmental. That's what that is the reason it has to fly under the radar is because of the judgment. That's right. That would occur if it wasn't under the radar. That's right. And we acknowledge the fact that that's an unfair judgment, that it says there's a double standard, right? For and sure. So just being conscious of that and just like, I hear you, I feel you, we're on the same wavelength. Right. You know what I mean? And then eventually getting to a place is like, we can be comfortable with each other. Yes, 100%. I mean, like the fun thing about one of the things that I love about both what this work has done for me. Yeah. Is, because I've traveled the world teaching, sharing these ideas in various forms. And one of the things is it doesn't matter where we are on the planet, the most unassuming woman will have a very rich, deep, desires. And to me, the saddest thing is never being able to taste that, right? That it just has to sit, because I just feel like not getting to be you. Yeah. So what would be some like advice or like some recommendations for women to fulfill that in a way, like that goes under the radar, fits within the culture and the social quote unquote norms, so that like, because they might be listening and be saying to us, okay, I hear exactly what you're saying, but how do I deal with that? How do I, deal with that in today's society? How can I, Yeah. So one of the things that I always recommend is start with something small. Right. So if you reveal something like, oh, I've always wanted to be tied up. Right. Oh, I want to try a little bond, because that's a very, especially since all the books and everything in the movies, like it's such a low ask. But if somebody's like, oh my God, I'll tie up. What are you talking? Why do you want to do that? Right. Then what would you? How should she address that with their partner? Yeah, hopefully. If there's judgment coming from the partner. Oh yeah, I mean that's a tough one. Because I literally just read a comment yesterday about let me actually pull it up. Yeah. Please. It was a video that I did, or it was an episode that I did with Lacey Claire about friends with benefits and creating this open, non-judgmental, communicative atmosphere.
and she was talking about how it just makes sex so much better when you have that. And then one of the comments on that video was that I can say from personal experience, when I have communicated my needs or wants, it makes my husband act defensive and question why I want to try these things.
Right.
That was just yesterday.
Yeah. And this is, that's a very unfortunate situation, because that's somebody who's not open. So now let's go 20 steps back.
Yeah.
Okay. To women listening to this, right? If, part of the challenge there is by you not knowing what you want and not being clear about what you want and how you want to be, what that does is that means that the other person will kind of set all the rules.
Right. Set all the boundaries, set all the rules and whatnot.
So for me, I love teaching the very thing of like starting to communicate. And, because for me, it's really important. Like, I want to have safe, vulnerable space to go check out. I want to try stuff out. I can be very, like, I have these, I have this like super like energetic side and spiritual side, but I have super naughty side. I like to try things. I like to explore stuff. I love it all, man. Why do you want to just eat chocolate cake? Right. You want to like, what else is there? I want all the flavors and sensations.
Right. And if your partner asks you, hey, why do you want to try chocolate cake? It's because I want to try chocolate cake. Why are you judging me for it? You don't want to try chocolate cake? Like, what's the big deal here? It's like, this is what I'm feeling, and that I want to communicate in a way that's going to be honest with you, so you could understand what makes me happy. And trust me, homeboy, you make me happy, I'm going to make you happy. That's what you got to tell this motherfucker.
That's good advice.
We call his ass Frank. This is Frank. Frank, what you doing? Your woman has needs. She wants to try some different flavor cakes. You got to let her try the different flavors. You judging her because she wants to try different things? Come on, man. What you doing? And somebody responded to her comment. She said, really, have you tried to work it out with him? And she said, no, ma'am, I just go with whatever he wants. See, that's a problem, ladies.
That is the problem.
You can't you got to feel comfortable voicing these things. It doesn't have to lead to an argument. You could say, well, he says, well, what, why do you want to try these things? It's just like, I'm curious. I want to experiment. I want to make this experience more fun for both of us. And and if you're going to judge me every time I have a recommendation, like, what the hell, dude? Like, that's not cool. I'm open to hearing some of your wants and needs. You should be open to hearing some of my wants and needs too. It could just be, a very calm, casual conversation. This is why. It doesn't have to be an argument. This is why, so we can make our relationship better, babe. You feel what I'm saying? So, Frank, stop being a douche.
Frank.
Come on.
Frank.
Come on, Frank.
Come on, Frank.
Get with the program. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
It is. That was good. By the way, that was great. See, I just learned something from you. I told you I would.
What'd you take away?
That was a great response. It's very simple. This is why I want to try it. I want to try some things, and it's going to make it better for you and I. That was great.
Yeah, exactly.
Simple. Boom, to the point.
He's got to see like the benefit in it for him sometimes. That's how men are. It's like, their ego is tied up in these kind of conversations. It's like, oh, what is it? What I'm giving you not enough? Or am I not good? No, it's not that. It's not that. It's just that I want to try other things, and I think that this will be fun for both of us.
Yes.
And not only that, if you start to really tap into these different sides of me, it's going to unleash a different side of my sexual energy that you haven't experienced before, which you're going to love. Like, you trust me on this, bro. So he sees the benefit in it for him, and then he's like, oh, okay, fine, let's give it a try. And then boom, it's like, but let's come into it with a very open mind. Let's be relaxed about it. I don't want you to feel this sort of like resilience and like hesitation, or just come into it with an open mind, so that way we could both enjoy it. But if you come into it like, I can't believe I'm doing this, dude, you fucking up the vibe.
Yeah,
it's like,
totally.
There's no point in trying it when you're not like actually trying to be, being open to it. You know what I mean? So fellas, you got to be conscious of this. You got to, like, because this is very important. But anyway, we got a little bit sidetracked with that.
That was beautiful.
So she hands you, you hold that item for her. What was it, if you don't mind? Do you remember what it was?
Just a pen.
A pen. Do you mind holding this for me for a second? And you take it from her. You guys kind of have that.
I do the.
Oh, I got you. I'm gonna keep it safe for you.
It.
It's safe with me.
It's totally safe.
That's what that was.
That's right.
You're communicating without any words.
That's it.
You know, you're accepting, and you're implying that.
I got you.
I got you. That's what was communicated.
That was it.
And then what happened next?
Yeah. So then, you know, everything happens, and I really, at that point, was like, okay, we have to find a way to keep in touch, right? In my mind, because I'm like, we just have to, and yet it all has to be discreet, and I don't know why. Like, who knows why? Right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, coworkers are around. Like, who knows? It's an event.
Gotcha.
I have no idea about anything, but I just get.
You got that vibe from her.
Yeah, I just know. I know what it is to be a woman, maybe feeling some attraction, but recognizing that if she really expressed that, there's possible for rejection, judgment.
Yeah.
Other people going like, "What are you doing?"
Right.
Like, I understand how intense that is.
Right.
And that's what I treat with respect.
So how did you go about creating that connection with her where you guys could see each other again?
So basically, it was the, you know, kind of just a very simple thing, which is I just before we were heading out, I just literally put my phone in her hand.
And was it already open to kind of like, here?
Yep.
There you go.
And then that was that. And I put that in my pocket and we went about our business. But I knew that had to happen.
Right.
If she hadn't come up with the pen,
Then
it would have been, you know, but there was obviously, she was like, hey, I want to communicate more.
Gotcha.
But, and I didn't take it I didn't even go like, oh, well, what next? Because sometimes people feel like an intensity in the moment.
Yeah.
But then they're going back to life and they're like, oh, or, you know, whatever's going on. But I just, again, I love your dance metaphor. I just put it back in her court. Now we're connected. So whatever you want to do from there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, did you reach out to her?
Yeah, just to say hi.
The next day or the same night?
Same night. I just said, hey. That's all. And then left it. And I was busy and stuff was going on. But then she responded. And then we just went like that. And then it became clear that it would probably be fun to
go grab a coffee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really love this story.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that. So what happened on the? So you guys met up for coffee. What happened during coffee?
Well, coffee, we realized the energy was full on still present. Like, we both were like, wow, it was so hot. Like, but just the kind of hot of like, we're at coffee. She's in workout clothes. I'm in workout clothes. And I'm like, wow. So, you know, for me, I'm very comfortable talking about sex and pleasure and desire.
Right.
And it just is we're humans, man.
It's part of your lifestyle, so it's like one of those things that. So I'm assuming by you saying that was integrated into the conversation
almost immediately.
Almost immediately,
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. I don't really waste a lot of time there because.
What was that conversation like? This guy. You got a macchiato? What's your sex life like? What do you want for coffee?
No.
What's your sex life? 2 sugars or 3? By the way.
So it's more like this.
Okay.
Think about it like this. We get the coffee. And imagine the radio station. There's just pumping music in the background. It's just popping. Right, that beat's going.
Yeah.
And I'm just feeling that beat, right? And I'm like, I did what you did. I just take a deep breath, and I was like, I just looked at her and I was like, you're looking really, really, really good.
What was her response to that? She felt what you were saying when you said that, but then what was her response?
Her response was like, took off her little thing, and she was like, it's getting warm out here. Right? You know? And I was just like, yeah. You know? And then it's just, but from that moment on, it's just, you know, to me, it's like, she's saying, I'm here, and I am, you know, I'm here.
Yeah.
And
I'm receptive
we're open
to what you're saying.
Yeah, and we can talk.
Right.
We can talk on the level. And nothing is, it's not explicit, it's just, we're now having an adult conversation.
It's casual. Yeah, I mean, the vibe, and also you, because I understand what you're saying when you say that, but I'm assuming also that you put that out there, and then you let her do what she wants with it, and
totally.
if she reciprocates it, then you continue.
That's it.
Forward. If not, then it's like, okay.
Yeah, I love your thing about that's the
letting
dance,
her lead
right?
the dance.
And I because time is short for all of us. That's why I was like, you know, okay, let's have a
meaningful, real
let's have a meaningful
conversation.
discussion, right? And I was just like, and still, I don't have an agenda,
Right.
because I don't even know if it's a good idea. But if somebody is open and generous with their energy, I'm going to do the same.
Right.
And so we just sat there, and it was like the birds were singing, and the sun was shining, and the coffee was good, and the conversation was tight, and it was just beautiful. And then I was like, you know, time came. I had stuff to do. I had to get myself over here, and I was like, cool.
That's the real reason that you showed up a little bit.
That's right.
You were behind schedule.
That's right.
Now I understand. Now I'm just playing.
That's it.
So, and then you guys went about your way.
Yeah. But I already know. You know, I'm just gonna. The best way I can describe this, I'm gonna follow the butterflies.
Right.
And at any moment, if I feel it's not a good idea, I will communicate about that and expect the same. So I wouldn't just ghost her.
Right.
I'd just be like, if for whatever reason, like I have no idea, but if there is a moment where I start to feel like this may not be the best idea for whatever reason, you know, I have, again, there could be a million, you know, she could be married. She could have, you know, who knows, right? Because all this stuff has happened without the story thus far.
And then you're discovering that through your guys' connection and that conversation. So what, in leaving that, what did you learn about her?
I learned that she's willing to be open and she's willing to communicate. And those are two things for me that I need.
Yeah.
I need to feel safe for myself,
Right.
right? If we can't, you know, like I hang out with people all the time. I hang out with women who are not good at communicating. That's not a good match for me on any level.
Right.
Right.
So how do you figure that out about her?
Simple things, right? So her body language, you know, when I said like, you look, like genuinely, I was like, like I was letting her feel the energy I was feeling from her through me, because that's another important thing.
The authenticity of that statement as well. And it's not coming from, and the intention behind the statement. I'm not saying this because I have some sort of like, you know, perverted intention. I'm saying this because I genuinely feel it to be true.
Yeah, well, it's 100% true. I'm just like, I feel you, and I'm letting you feel your impact on me. And if that makes you happy,
you start to gauge how open she's willing to be through the comments like that, through you sharing your genuine, authentic self and feelings, you basically gauging how she reciprocates it. If she starts to reciprocate that genuine, those authentic feelings, then it's like, oh, you're open to communication and,
Yeah. So now we're going to go back, right? We're going to do some jujitsu here.
Yeah.
So now we're going to go back to the woman who's in a relationship that she does not have communication. And you gave her a move. You were like, hey, let me tell you why I'm doing this. I would say for women who are not in relationship but are looking or are on an edge of something.
Mm-hmm. In a situationship, that's what...
A situationship, right?
Yeah, right.
That you're knowing what you want and being able to communicate that about that to someone, it becomes so important because like and this happens to me all the, like I love talking to people. I just enjoy, it's fun to just meet people and have a conversation, and I love that. And there was another woman who I met out and about, and I noticed that as soon as I started talking about, because who I am as a sexual human is absolutely authentic to who I am, period. Mm-hmm. Right? So if somebody's like, oh my God, right, that's not a good fit. It doesn't matter. Nothing else matters, man. Right. If we're not, it doesn't make sense. Why would I continue to? Right. It doesn't make sense. It's not good for her. It's not good for me. Like nobody's happy here.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? So I think that's really the calibration here. It's like just understanding that we're humans, and the more you own just being a complex, complete human, including your sexuality, and then starting to get comfortable sharing that, speaking about it, even if it's uncomfortable. These are uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah, but I would argue that it doesn't have to be, and you can almost influence it to be less uncomfortable.
For sure.
By the way
Make it fun.
Exactly. And it's like casual, nonchalant. Like what's the big deal about talking about these real things? You know what I mean? It's all about the energy and the way you talk about it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Fellas y'all need to do a better job about having those conversations and not making it weird, basically.
For sure.
You know what I mean? So you sense, you want to be able to sense whether or not they're open and whether or not they are good communicators and whatnot. Here's one thing that I'm thinking that the audience is asking: how can they sense, as a woman, whether or not a man is coming from a genuine place or not, or whether his intentions are just to get sex,
Well, again, it comes back to what you want. And I want to make this distinction, right? Because I have friends, and, I have lots of female friends, right? And there are some of them that are like, I have an itch, it will get scratched tonight, and I don't care what the intention is. I hope it's just sex. That's something it's just know what you want.
Gotcha.
Right? But if you're like, I'm whatever your situation is, where you're looking to get an itch scratched, but you're hoping that person then comes out on a white horse and a sword and is like, I'm going to rescue. Probably not the. And I think that it's like, what do you want? And it's okay to want whatever it is that you want.
Owning your desire, not allowing people's judgment to make you feel any different type of way about it.
That's right.
So once you know what you want, you clarify that. It's like, whether it's, I just want to get this itch scratched, or I am looking for something more, then how do they proceed in navigating or discerning whether or not the person that they're interacting with is on the same page as them?
Okay. Another piece of energy jujitsu we're about to do.
I practice jujitsu. I just stared.
Oh, cool.
It's funny that you bring up these analogies in reference to jujitsu, because I literally just started training like 3 months ago.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's my new kick. It's my new thing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, right? This is why a woman knowing her body and her orgasm, her pleasure is crucial. Some of the most important work I have ever done with lovers and friends and females in general, right, is like owning, right? Because now here's the answer to that question, right? I'm in my flow. And if you hang out with me, I'm in my flow, bro. I'm just saying for myself. Like, I am very in touch with my sexual energy. And nobody's going to be like, somebody wants to come in and rain on that parade. I'm like, I got 2 words for you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, for real. Because it's like, I'm good. Like, you do you, I'll do me, right? And when a woman starts to claim that, like, you know, I know about my orgasm, I know about pleasure, this becomes a reference point. Right? It becomes a reference point in her body. This is why a lot of the exercises, a lot of the things I'm doing, a lot of these really like way down the road about body and owning your energy and being who you are and your authentic sexual self-expression. If you know this, then you meet somebody and that starts to vibrate like 2 tuning forks. Boom, which is what happened with that woman we were talking about earlier. Right. Tuning forks, boom, and it was there. Right. But if you're like all, you know, tied up and you're like, you don't know about your orgasm, you don't know about your pleasure, you feel sexual shame and you're coming from that and all that. Well, then you will not know anybody's intention. It's just going to be all like driving in the dark, in the rain, with the fog, because you don't know. When a woman knows, you know, when she knows her, like, okay, I'm feeling this, right? Now some dude rolls up and is coming with like compression energy, right? So I was talking earlier about like energy mastery, where I'm adding some water, I'm adding some fiery or whatever. Some dude rolls up and he's running with compression or shame. Judgment. That resonating like starts to get like, right. That's how you know. So reference points.
Yeah. So step 1, learning yourself.
Learn yourself. Okay. Now this is a paradigm shift because most women have been taught that their orgasm and their pleasure is in the hands of their partner. Right? Or, you know, like somebody will come and unlock all the secrets. And, you know, it's an interesting idea. It's a sweet story. It's a little bit like Cinderella. But the reality is, if you don't start to understand your own body, it's not good for anybody. But you start to understand and start to feel like, oh, wait, you know, like one of the things I love to talk about, you talk about in communication, I want to know, what kind of touch do you like? Do you like strong? Do you like energetic? Do you like tingly, you know, like literally physical touch, right? Some people, the lightest touch is just, symphonies play, right? Some people want, feel you, you know, want to feel like it's literally like it's an infinite palette.
Yeah.
And this is like, it's so exciting because you meet this individual, they have a whole world you know nothing about. You get to discover and explore. But if she doesn't know any of those things, then it shows up as like, oh, well, whatever. And then, yeah, that's no bueno. I'm just right, because the box just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller.
Right.
And now we have that situation where this like the hug you give this woman at a show is such a breath of fresh air because she's been living more and more and more and more compressed.
When you said that women think that their orgasm is in the hands of somebody else when that's not true, can you elaborate on that?
So here's what I mean by that.
You're saying that women can be in control of their own orgasm.
Yes. Can be and really need to be. Because what you're doing when you start to like be able to talk about what you like, how you like to be touched, right? Like what is the, if we're getting to the friction part of the conversation, you know, where point A is thinking about connecting with slot B, we better have some conversation about that.
Yeah.
Right? We better understand, because maybe, and if you don't know your body, I mean, it's just, I don't even know where to be. I mean, it's just.
Right. It's like, trying to fix your car and you don't know anything about the car.
That's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? But if you know, then you can say, oh, here's where the problem is. And then step one is knowing, understanding your body, being real about what your desires are, being honest about it, being, completely open about it and not feeling shame. And then step two is learning how to communicate what it is that this body needs.
Yes.
Right.
And now we're in a much more interesting conversation.
Right. Because then you could go to the mechanic and say, this is where the problem is, this is what needs to be addressed, and this is what I think will work. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, he's just going to go in there, start fucking with all kinds of shit that shouldn't be touched. It's like, that's not solving the issue. I'm still fucking... Bro, this shit still is running like shit because you know. But first, you gotta learn the vehicle, your body.
Yes.
Learn what it needs, what it wants, and then you can. Once you know that, you find the words to be able to communicate to the mechanic. This is what it needs.
Yeah, because there is nothing worse than the mechanic messing with your tailpipe.
Right. When it's a fucking transmission problem.
This is what I'm saying.
It's like, bro, get your thing out of the tailpipe, bro. What you doing?
What you doing? Like what?
Come on,
but this is real.
Come on, Frank. The fuck you doing? Get your thing out the tailpipe, bro. We got issues up front that need to be addressed.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel you. And ladies, if you feel us on what we're saying here, leave some comments, and if you have anything to add, please do.
add. I mean, like I said, I am always learning. I would love to hear.
That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
So that's really great. Like, are there any things? So once they learn their body and then they start to understand, how do they communicate those? So like, what's something that somebody would say to you to communicate? Like, this is kind of what I like and what I don't like. Is it an actual verbal conversation, or can it also, I know
it can be nonverbal,
it could also be nonverbal.
Here's the thing.
Any like little things you can, here, try this, try that.
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing is to kind of figure out, what do you want?
Right.
Right. So I keep coming back to that because it's like, I know we want different things at different times, but there is a general way the car likes to be driven.
Right.
Okay. And the other thing is most of the driving that is done in our culture is it has a lot of that to it.
Very masculine, very yang.
Very yang. Right. And so what happens is, because that's kind of the default that, a lot of the adult industry will teach, is just there's a certain kind of way the car is driven. And then what ends up happening is you don't even know that you don't know. This is the biggest thing that I see. Like when I'm talking to a woman, and I'll be like, so let's just say I ask the question, so how's your sex life? How are things? A genuine question. How is that? Oh, great. I'm great. Mm-hmm. Right? There's that, which is like, or there's the like, I don't know if I can have orgasms. This is a very real question. And
prominent issue.
Yeah. And women start to think they're broken. Exactly. Exactly.
You ain't broken, baby.
For sure, I assure you, having done this work for like 20 years, I have yet to find anybody who is broken. Right?
So what is your advice to the women who think that they're,
It's just number one, the most obvious thing, you don't have safe space. Mm-hmm. Literally, we do not have safe space. We don't have safe space in ourselves, right? Because even if somebody if I tell a woman, like, part of getting to know her orgasm is like, do you have a self-pleasure practice? Right? Well, if she's like, I don't have private space, or I'm taking away from my husband or my partner if I'm self-pleasuring, all of these frameworks need to be like whoop, out the window, right? Because the only way to get to know your car is you better learn how to drive your car.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you can't tell anybody how to drive it if you don't know how to drive it.
Right.
And then as you're starting to really like, oh, I like this, direct conversations, not when your car is in the shop. You want to have those conversations before. We're at the farmer's market, we're at the grocery store, we're having a glass of wine, some other place.
Breakfast, yeah,
anywhere where the stakes aren't high, because unfortunately by the time the clothes are off, people get less and less verbal generally. And so you really need to lay the foundation.
Yeah, that's where the more nonverbal style of communication comes in.
Yeah. But lay the foundation.
Yeah.
And if you open up about a desire and somebody goes like, ah, that's not your person. And we're going on 8 billion people on the planet.
Right.
Like, whatever you're into, there are lots and 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 lots, times 1,000, times 1,000,000, who are also into that.
Yeah.
But because we don't talk, and our partners don't talk, and everybody doesn't talk, none of that gets resolved.
Right.
So, authentic self-expression, including your sexuality. Have conversations and make them fun. It's fun.
Right.
It's goofy. I mean, if you think about sex just from the level of just like what is going on, it's kind of absurd.
Yeah.
And if we could just laugh about it.
Yeah, just have fun with it. Make it playful. It doesn't have to be so serious.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that. It doesn't have to be so awkward or serious, or, you know, you're overthinking it in your head if that's how you feel about it. I feel like.
And I'm about to share with you something. I'm going to share. I blushed a little bit just thinking about it, but I want to explain the thing. So it turns out I have actually a pretty wonderful foot fetish.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't even know.
You just discovered this?
I mean, I really discovered how intense it was in the last year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, because I just started giving myself more room. You know, I talk to people all the time, and I just noticed. Here's another funny thing: you could catch fetishes. That's a real thing, right? So like, and I had a friend of mine who was like really into her feet. And she'd be like, "Well, will you massage my feet?" And, "Oh, while you're massaging my feet, will you know, why don't you put your toes in your mouth? You put my toes in your mouth." And I was like, "Okay, I don't know." You know, I'm like, and I did, and I was like, "I like this," right? So now, that was like probably 3 years ago. 3 years later, I just realized like, oh, I caught that fetish. Like, this is now like a thing, right?
Gotcha.
That I really like. So, go ahead.
I want to point something out. So we have these fetishes, and some of you listening to this may have unintentionally like judged when he just said, "Hey, I have this foot fetish." But you, when you said that, did not judge yourself.
No.
And I want to point that out.
Thank you.
Because
really
that
important.
is very important for you, the listener, to apply to whatever it is that your quote unquote fetishes, kinks, desires are.
Whatever.
You see? And you didn't judge yourself when you just told me that.
Yeah.
And I know that with society the way it is, a lot of people might be like, "Oh, whoa, that's weird. That's kind of," you know, it's like, whatever. And you know, I'll be honest, even I, when you said that, was like, had this almost instinctual kind of reaction to be like, you know, whoa, what did he just tell me? But then I caught myself and be like, oh, wow, he's like, now I'm open and being receptive to it, and I'm listening without judging. And I feel like we have to catch ourselves in those moments when I shouldn't be judging right now. I should be listening and trying to learn and understand. Right, and then that's when you can get somewhere with your partner. Like I'm speaking in terms of like with your partner.
For sure.
Right.
Which is why I shared that with you.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. And by the way, Energy Master, right? I watched that process.
Yeah.
I watched you kind of navigate that, like, whoa, wait, what?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is beautiful. And I love that you caught it and then shifted it, right? Because the thing is, and this is why I did that specifically, because I want to show you, like, the reaction is going to be what the reaction is. Right? I don't really care. But it turns out what's cool, let me tell you some things about that really quickly. If a woman is paying attention to the shoes she's wearing, the toenail polish, the things like, that's a really nice thing, right? I don't want to see people with dirty nails, it's just kind of, you're just kind of like, what? So I pay attention to those things. Those are details, little details, right? What's cool is, and this is where I'm going with this. You put it out there. Here's a desire, right? It's not for everybody.
Right.
Perfect. But nor am I for everybody.
Right.
Right? Like, you want to vibe with the people who vibe with you.
Yes.
And you're right about it. I have zero energy about it. It's just something, it's like anything. It's like, I like that piece of vanilla cake. Nobody has like, good.
Yeah.
Right? It's not the only thing, obviously, but it is a thing that I have found gives me a lot of pleasure. Really nice. Well, when we learn to say, well, okay, we'll take that. You know what else gives me pleasure? Breathing. Love breathing. Right? So if I'm hanging out with somebody who's like,
yeah,
it's not my person.
Right.
Right? I want that. And we go back to the conversation today. So I was like, you're looking really beautiful. Take this deep breath, relax, just feel my body. And she does the same thing. I'm like, that. Where are we going with this? Now we're going to tie this all together. Put out what you want. Know your orgasm. Know your body. Know your pleasure. Know the things that you want. Put them out. Talk about them, right? And if somebody is moving in the opposite direction, that is not your person. Great. You just saved yourself like 6 months of like emotional paperwork.
Yeah.
Boom. It's a way, and now I'm going meta, it's a way of filtering.
We say this all the time. Yeah, I love it. I've said this before along the same lines. And it's not anything that you should like feel down about, like, oh, it didn't work out. It's like, no, you should look at it in a positive way. It's like, oh, thank God he showed me his cards and he saved me so much time. You know what I mean?
Saved you.
You know, when somebody shows you their cards, don't get mad about what you see. Be like, oh, thank God. Now I know I'm not a match for you. You know what I mean? We saved a lot of time. You saved time, I saved time. Now I can move on and find something that matches what I'm looking for. It's not anything to get, oh, another one didn't work out. No, that's why it's important to know yourself, communicate so you can see what their cards are sooner rather than later.
That is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's how you avoid getting into the place a year or 2 or 3 down the line, thinking like, oh, he's going to change, she's going to change. And it's like, yeah. And by the way, I mean, we're speaking about male, female, but this is going to work in any configuration, right? We're talking about authentic sexual expression.
Right.
Right. With whoever. However, it's like, are you being you? And the more you are you, the less BS you will put up with. Right? That's what I'm talking about.
And the less BS you'll attract.
Exactly. And when I'm talking about BS, I'm talking about belief systems. The stuff that really messes things up.
Okay. So belief systems in terms of like, in what way would you say?
So if somebody believes fundamentally that sex is dirty, you better figure that out like ASAP.
Yeah.
Right? And if you have a higher sex drive, a lot of women have a very high sex drive, but what happens is it gets shut down and compressed, right? So then it just gets smaller and smaller, and then they think like, oh, I can't have an orgasm.
Yeah.
But you're not feeling safe, because when you did come out and just kind of be a little bit like, here's who I am, and somebody was like, ugh.
Yeah.
So, right, so you want to filter that out as quickly as possible. If somebody, whatever their belief systems are,
yeah,
you want to get it right. I have a whole book.
Yeah.
That's what that book is all about, right? That's like the belief systems that are behind things. I believe, and I will share this with you, right? It's not true. What I'm about to share with you is not true. It's not true with capital T. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if it's right. But I'm not saying morally. Gotcha. I'm just saying I don't know if it's correct. I'm just saying this is a framework, a belief system that I use, which is that almost all movements of sex energy are positive. Okay? Another way to say that is all flow
of sex energy
is positive.
Okay.
Okay? That's my frame. So whether it moves, it's a look, it's a touch, it's a discussion, it's a little message in the body, right? That little movement of sex energy is a net positive for everybody.
Okay.
Okay? Because the energy moved. And if you want to be happier in your life, your sex energy has to move. Mm-hmm. That's just a fact. And the more relaxed you are, and that energy moves, and you have a simple connection. So let's go back to seeing that woman. That was a movement of massive sexual energy. Mm. I get goosebumps.
So you're saying the movement of the sexual energy, basically the communication of it,
yes,
is net positive, because that's how you ultimately discern whether or not something's the right fit or not. That's but if there's no communication, then it's not.
That's it.
Positive. Okay.
Yeah. And that
makes sense.
So now think about that as a big filter. So if somebody fundamentally, like I say something and they're like, ew, or or whatever, it just isn't, because the energy didn't move. Mm. But what I loved about what you just demonstrated, and this is why, you have good connections, right? Is because I watched you very quickly process, catch yourself, respond, and come back to how I actually experienced with you, which is being an open person, right?
Yeah.
And that's like in life.
Yeah. Well, because when you first said that, I wasn't quite understanding what you meant by it, and maybe somebody who's listening maybe thought the same thing I did. Like, how can all sex energy be positive? So I took it as like sex energy in general is positive. All sex energy is positive. And I'm like, but wouldn't that depend on the person's intent with that sex energy? Right? That's what my mind went to at first. Yeah. And then when you explain that, no, it's the communication of it that is positive. Right? So them just communicating it gives you enough to work with to discern whether or not it's something that you want to engage with or not. That's the positive part, the communication of it.
And the energy moved, which feels good.
Right.
It does not feel good to block your energy, because you're blocking who you are.
Gotcha.
Right. So what's really fun about this, like, we're both energized in this conversation, right? Because we're talking about stuff that we really care about, and we both happen to really want to help people liberate themselves around their bodies, their desires, their freedom. So look at the energy we have in this conversation. I'm just saying, like, it's a lot, and I'm sure people are feeling it in just listening to us. Right. That's authentic expression.
Yeah.
That's real.
Yeah. One thing I'm thinking about is how this is much easier for us than it is for a lot of the women listening, just for the fact that they play and have to communicate their sexual energy differently, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's a lot easier said than done because of the fact that we're men, and we're like we said earlier, they have to always kind of, fly under the radar and be very kind of, almost subtle with the way they communicate their sex energy, if you will. So I was thinking about, like, what if they are, in a practical sense, what if they are approached with energy that has a selfish intent behind it, how they can, counteract it while still communicating their sexual energy, almost like in a sense of like, I feel the energy you're giving me and it's not resonating with me. This is what resonates with me. So either get your act together, Frank, or get the fuck out of my face.
That's basically it. I mean, you got it right there.
Did that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to like think from the perspective of,
so here's
the
my
audience.
Yeah. So for you listening, your sex energy moving, whatever that practice is for you. I do breathing exercises. I have things because I want to feel good in my body all the time. There's no reason not to. Right? So I move through life. I am in my, here's a mind blower, but it is true. I spend most of my time in what I would call just an orgasmic flow. Right? Just and what I mean by that is not like but more like there is a motion or flow of energy that is very much in harmony with the universe. And when you think about what the universe is doing, exploding and contracting and all of this stuff going on, that is the movement of energy. It is literally the entire universe. I want to be in alignment with that.
So you're not resisting.
Right.
So that's what you mean, is like you're in harmony with it because you're not like resisting. You're kind of like flowing like water.
I'm flowing like water, man. Yeah.
Whatever way this river curves.
You're just going with it.
And you're not like, your expectations aren't set on certain things.
Yeah, exactly.
It has to be this way, that way, or the other thing. You just like accept every curve that there is to this ravine and flow with it. So that way you're more at peace, and what other benefits does that? Well,
I mean,
render?
One thing is like vitality, right? Because like I'm not waiting for retirement one day, someday in the future, or I'm not waiting for heaven. Like I feel like we can create our heaven here. Right? And it happens in conversation, communication, vulnerability, movements of sexual energy, expanding our pleasure, getting to know your orgasm, feeling good in your body, owning your body. Right? Owning it. It's your body.
Right.
It's your body. Even though a lot of the cultural programming, especially around female-bodied humans, is that it's not your body. That Congress controls that like everybody else controls your body but you.
Yeah.
And that when you start to go from that to here,
right,
it's a game. It's a complete paradigm shift, and I've watched this over and over and over again. It's your body. You start to move through the world with that. So now going back to your thing there, it's like my energy is always going to be flowing. Right? Some people are gonna, at this point in my life, most everybody vibes with it. But when I was working this out, people would come up and be like, why are you feeling so good? What's up with you, man? And I'm like, what? Right? But now I think it's like so integrated to who I am.
Yeah.
But on the pathway, people will challenge you.
Yeah. How long have you been on that kind of journey of discovery, and how long have you been, practicing and teaching about this in general?
So I'm going to tell you a crazy story.
Okay.
I started meditating when I was 10.
Okay. That's very unique.
Very unique.
What sparked that? What?
I grew up in New York City, and I just was exposed to a bunch of stuff, and I found meditation, and given how crazy the city was, that was just happened to be a really nice place for me.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends went into drugs to escape it. I was just like, this just feels good. So then I went from, just meditation, lots of different practices. Then I met a Tantra Master, and Tantra Master is just somebody who their specialty is sexual energy. And he was like, hey, like you're going to have lots of feelings. I was still, I was like, I think probably 12, somewhere there. Yeah, young. And he was like, you're going to have lots of things that are going on, but you as a man, if you really want to kind of move through the world in your power, it's really important that you learn how this energy works.
Be conscious of it.
Be conscious of it, right? Because otherwise it's just blah, blah, blah. It's all
being a little reckless with it.
And so he taught that to me. And then I had that. And then I realized like, oh, okay, well, this is an issue. And that has really been the thread of my entire life. And I've done movies, I directed for Playboy for like 15 years, if not longer. I've shot feature films, I've done commercials, music video, so I went through the film industry. Then I'm also an entrepreneur. I love creating stuff. So I've done cosmetic companies. I'm currently, working on a NFT cryptocurrency project that's, because I love creating, but understand how the energy moves is irrelevant. It must move. And the more you get in harmony with that flow in your life, the more you are living in your authentic sexual self-expression, being who you are, whatever that is. Right? Because for some people, it's just about, I just want to be in me.
Right.
It doesn't matter. However that shows up for you, that's the flow we're on.
Gotcha.
Right? Then you look at your life and you're like, oh, okay, my energy's moving, I'm free, I'm able to communicate, I'm hanging out with people I want to be hanging out with. And I'm telling you, post-COVID, a lot of people have their lives got blown up.
Yeah.
And they're having to make big decisions. Who am I? Where am I going? What do I want to do? What kind of work do I want to do? What kind of relationships do I want? Now is the time.
Yeah.
Now is the time. Now is the time to claim who you are.
Yeah.
To be who you are and to hang out with people that love you and support you for who you are. Stop hanging out with people who don't dig you for being you. That's crazy.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
So what would you say to somebody who may feel like that all sounds great, that all sounds, amazing. I want to be who I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But my circumstances, my 9-to-5 job, my integrated lifestyle in this culture, this society doesn't allow me to do that as easily as you're saying. Like, it's easier said than done.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah, well, you know that.
So knowing that, being conscious of that, and then almost like knowing how to flip that switch on and off as you, clocking in, boom, I'm going with this program. But as soon as fucking 5 o'clock rolls around, I'm out, I'm back to being me, and everything you do outside of that is what you're saying, hey, I'm not going to be hanging out with people who don't accept me. And I feel like a important pathway to a good starting point is, again, coming back to first learning yourself and then learning how to communicate that and then being authentic with it, non-apologetic about it.
Right.
And now you're going to attract more like-minded people and almost, force that out of them just by osmosis in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, dude, you've got it. I mean, because here's the thing. Like, you may not like what I say, right? There are people who are not going to, they just, right? That's reality.
Well, also, a lot of this that we're talking about can be applied in so many different, kind of contexts. Like, it could be applied to your marriage, to your relationship, to first just, learning, because, ideally, you would want to know this before you meet your partner, your lifelong partner. Ideally. And I understand that, you might already be in a committed relationship and it's like, okay, well, now I have to kind of reverse engineer and get back to, how to shift the dynamic in a way that's going to truly be like authentic to who I really am.
Yeah.
You understand? So that's, again, I feel like that comes to first evaluating and learning yourself and then learning the way to communicate that in a way where your partner also understands, and now you guys can start to make some progress.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, really, that's coming back to what you said earlier, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah. Okay. So that's something I really wanted to touch on, because I was like, okay, like ideally this is all great information for somebody who, you know, like before I get involved with you, I want to kind of approach it in this way to make sure we match. But then of course there's going to be people listening who are already,
they're already in, man.
Yeah.
They're in.
So it's like, what do I do? I already got Frank laying next to me in bed. What do I do about this motherfucker? You know what I mean?
But here's the thing, right? Even if Frank is laying in bed, there's private time. And you take that time and start getting to know your own body.
Yeah.
Right? Because that you can do. That's not dependent on Frank.
Yep.
Right? This is like, take back your sexual energy from wherever you put it, because it's yours.
Yep.
Right? So whatever Frank is up to, you can just be like, Frank is sleeping. I'll be right here.
I dig them glasses. Yep.
So, you know what I mean? Like we can make it work.
Yeah.
And you need to find your private time.
Yep. And then, yeah, that's where you could really have that conversation with yourself, get to the bottom. Okay, this is who I am. Now let me think about how to communicate this. And now it's like, Frank, hey, let's have this conversation. It's like, it could happen during coffee, like we said, or breakfast, or any time. And it can be nonchalant, open, unapologetic, and just, casual. It doesn't have to be confrontational. And the more you get them to understand, the more...
Yeah, more space it creates.
Yep.
And the more harmony, that's the flow.
Yeah. Shit, we're just scratching the surface.
We are literally just scratching the surface.
This is like step one, I feel like.
Yeah.
Because I was like, because I guess we should give a little context of like how we met. I met a friend who introduced me to you because he got the sense of like kind of given my background and what I do, and like he kind of almost knew right away. It's like, oh, you get it. You understand what I'm talking about, because every time I try to have this conversation with all these other guys, it's like they kind of just tune me out, or like they think I'm just like a little bit like off the beating path. And it's like, oh, I could tell you understand what I'm saying. He's like, you gotta meet my friend Lawrence, dude. You're gonna love him. And then we went.
And it's true.
Yeah, no, almost immediately.
Yeah.
We went and had lunch the other day, and the energy right away that I felt from you was, very like vibrant and very you're saying you were in your own flow.
I'm in my own flow.
Yep. Yeah. And it just made it so easy to communicate with you. One, and it was helpful that I had context.
For sure.
And we had great conversation. I was like, wow, this could have been a podcast episode here.
Yeah.
It
was completely different, by the way, but where we ended up on this one, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty.
Yeah.
The main thing that I want the women listening to this podcast to understand is, no matter what your situation is, there is hope.
Yes. Yes.
That is key.
Can you elaborate on that? Like, is there any particular, examples of a person who you've, because I assume you say that because you've had a lot of interactions or experiences with women who have felt like there isn't hope. Right. Well,
it can feel that way, right? If you're in a relationship and you don't have communication and you're faking orgasms, and you're, because a lot of women have to fake orgasms because they don't know how to communicate. They don't know their own pleasure, and it's so bad, they're just trying to get it to stop. A lot of women live in that world.
Yeah.
Right? So the reason I say there is hope, because no matter what the situation is, no matter how crazy, gaslighty, how hopeless it feels. The reality is a conversation just like this one, like we're having, very reality based, right? Because that's all I'm interested in.
Yeah.
You know, because if we are talking about a cup, we have a common conversation. We can have a good, deep conversation. That's where I like to be.
Yeah. Let's not beat around the bush. Let's just have a real conversation and get straight to what it is that we're trying to communicate about.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so when we feel hopeless, it's because we're trying to pretend that the cup is not a cup and talk philosophically, start talking about, the sky and the clouds and the plants and global warming and
yeah. You're trying to say what you want to say without saying it, to ultimately avoid judgment and to avoid affecting or
hurting another person sometimes.
Hurting another person's feelings or generating some sort of negative response out of the other person. You know what I mean? We're trying.
Or our own shame, feeling our own shame, because that can feel very terrifying.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, I know there are some of you listening to this, and these words are going straight into you because we're telling you there is hope. That is a fact. And that typically comes from making a decision, right? And we've spoken about this, but like, if you're listening to this and you're feeling energy in your body, like you're feeling like you take a moment, you breathe and you're like, right? There's hope, because that's that moment where you start to go like, oh, there is another way. That's why communication is so important. And I'm deeply committed to this. I mean, I want happy people in life. I want people to be, just having more fun, more honesty, more communication, more openness, more pleasure. Like, why not?
And having more comfort overall.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and this addressing these things really helps you get to that place.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're doing our best to help you address Frank, and so if this was resonating with you, let us know. It's definitely what we aim to do, because it feels so good when you get that type of feedback from people, letting you know that, hey, you really impacted me and you helped me come to peace with this, that, or the other thing, or add clarity in whatever way. I notice that about myself. When I get that sort of feedback with what we're doing, it motivates me to do it even more. It affects my, intention and motivation. It's like, okay, I really love that. I want to do more of that. Let me be conscious of what I'm doing and how I'm doing it to make sure that is my intention, is to create that sort of result. That's the place we're coming from. We trying to help. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So one last thing that is I'm like curious about as well, and this is kind of more like the business side of me that's curious about this, is that earlier you mentioned your crypto/NFT project that you're working with, and that's kind of a space that I've been a little fascinated with, and I'm not 100% educated on it, but I'm curious about what you're doing in the NFT space. I know you mentioned, I guess I'll just let you take it from here. And
perfect. Yeah, I mean, so we're talking about energy now, right?
Yeah.
So there's sex energy, there's money energy, relationship energy, business energy, electrical energy. I mean, there's energy is everywhere. The difference between something that's alive and not is literally energy.
Right.
So with NFTs, I started seeing financial energy. In other words, people being like, wait a minute, I can take a piece of art and I can own a piece of art, which is basically what I was doing, it was like what we're doing, it's like taking masterworks of art, like Picasso's, Basquiat's, Keith Haring, Andy Warhol, taking masterworks, and then an NFT is just a fraction. It represents a fraction, a very specific serialized fraction of the whole. And that's really it. It's like you now have this digital representation of a masterwork that represents you owning a piece of that masterwork. And that's basically the big idea. And I think that's the NFT space is going to change everything.
I'm watching it happen.
Yeah.
I'm like almost an observer on the outside watching it happen. I mean, I could bring up just yesterday. What's today? Yeah, just yesterday, a really popular rapper, Tory Lanez. He just sold 1 million copies of his new album.
As an NFT?
Through an NFT.
Yep. 100%.
And he literally, within 10 minutes or a minute, he sold each copy. Like you buy the NFT, you own a copy of the album.
You own a digitally, like you own an original approved by the artist.
Right.
Like that, it's so next level.
Yeah.
This is like a signed album.
Yeah.
That exists in the cloud on the blockchain. It's like,
yeah.
But that's real.
Yeah. And it's so easily transferable as well. Like your ownership. And so what he did was he sold 1 million copies for $1 each.
Beautiful.
And now people can take that and they can resell it if they want. It can become something that is a notable album and go up in value. It's worth whatever people determine it's worth. Yeah. You know, I want one of those copies. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm willing to pay X amount of dollars for it. I want a piece of the Mona Lisa. I want a piece of that. I'm willing to pay that. I want to own a piece of that. Right?
It's brilliant.
And what he did was he literally sold the first album via NFTs.
It's amazing.
And made $1 million within less than 10 minutes. Yeah. And now everybody who owns a piece of it can now resell that for whatever they want.
Want to know something else really cool? I don't know that he did this, but here's the big problem that's been happening that NFT solves, especially with IP, intellectual property, is so now every time somebody sells his NFT, encoded in the smart contract sale, he will get a percentage of that sale. So as the value goes up in the million fractions,
he gets a commission.
Yeah, forever.
That's crazy.
Yeah, this is what the big problem was. This is why the cloud and all the stuff started devastating the music industries, because there was no way to get for the artists to make the money. So it was the platforms.
It's a game changer.
It's a game changer, man. You want to be an artist, you release it. This is what we're building. So whether it's artists, musicians, filmmakers.
So what you're building is a marketplace?
A marketplace, a platform, a smart contract that handles all the transactions ad infinitum. My co-developer was involved in my Ether wallet, which was one of the biggest it was key to the ICO craze of 2017. 80% of the transactions of Ethereum went through my Ether wallet.
Oh wow!
And he's my lead dev on this. He's our one of our co-founders. It's a big project, man.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a game changer. It is truly a game changer.
Yeah. So where can they if you're curious, if somebody who's listening to this is curious about this, or they are an artist or a creator or somebody who, maybe an author. I mean, this can apply to so many different
everything,
practices or professions. Where can they learn more about it to kind of see how they fit into this new kind of wave
ecosystem, man?
Yeah, ecosystem.
Yeah. So go to ECO, ECO. F as in Frank, there's our boy. ECOFI, ecofi.io.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And there they'll be able to...
You'll be able to access everything. So we'll have...
Learn.
You'll be able to learn. Like, I love that this musician is like, yeah, boom, here's my work, and you're
now an owner of a piece of it.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Yeah. So what I want to do, I think we touched on a lot.
Yeah, so many things. Yeah.
So many things. Yeah. There's a lot of... What we'll do is, like, we'll gather feedback from the audience, and then, you know, maybe down the line we can, you know, have a
deep dive.
Yeah, because I know there's so much more. So much more. And I'm excited to have those conversations, just like even personally, you know, if it's something that y'all are interested in hearing and learning more about, please let us know. And, you know, we'll be sure to bring Lawrence, the Energy Master, back.
Yeah, I love it. I really appreciate, you know, I'm so passionate, obviously, right? Because I watch this just make people's lives better in the most dramatic ways.
Well, I totally feel that as well. That's why I was really excited about having you on. Thank you so much for coming on, man. I really do appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you. I know how much work goes into this. I know the effort. I know the love you've put in. I know the, you know, care for your audience, which is what made me excited to be here. You know? Because that's what our conversation was. And I was like, I definitely want to be a part of that.
I appreciate that.
So thank you. Man. I appreciate all you're doing.
So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Appreciate you.
Yes,
thank y'all for the love. If you took anything away from this podcast or this episode, please let us know what that was. Any questions, leave them in the comment section below. If you want to write us a review over on Apple Podcasts, letting us know what you think about what the podcast as an overall whole, that would be very well appreciated. If there's somebody that you know that can, you know, really find the information that we talked about useful, feel free to share it with them. You know, we're always trying to help influence and impact as many people as possible in a positive way. So please, you know, feel encouraged to spread the word, ladies. You feel what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And if you are new here and you haven't done so yet, please hit that subscribe button. You see, we have a lot of interesting conversations, and we're not afraid to talk about the things that most people think but don't want to talk about. So as you can see, that's what we do here. Hit that subscribe button, y'all. Hit that like button. Leave us some comments. Spread the word about this thing. We appreciate it. We love y'all. And ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next week. Peace.
Peace.
In the bonus episode.
I can't let you leave without talking about this, man. Well, because we are just scratching the surface. I felt like everything we just talked about is a great kind of framework to start with, you know, and then we're able to, like, get into some of these deeper conversations with a better context. You know what I mean? Dude, that was so awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks you so much.
My pleasure,
coming
man.
in,
It was amazing.
Sharing with everybody, dude.
That was really fun.
That was really great.